Hi, my name's Tomas Hernandez, and this is my story. My story begins in Marfa, Texas. I'm the last child of six. My parents actually they came from the state of Chihuahua, Mexico, a long time ago. So they moved over here to, of course, better opportunities, of course. But we were poor Mexican family in Marfa. I mean, we really didn't had a small house for six kids and two adults, so space was limited. We had no central heating, none of the nice things that we now that like I have now, especially. But yeah, it was pretty rough growing up back then. We had a small farm. Essentially, we had everything. We had like goats, we had chickens, we had hogs, horses, dogs. Yeah, it was just, and so there was no really off time from outside of school or in the summer. We were always either helping out, with chores there around the house, around the farm, or in the summers we had to work for whatever, if we wanted new clothes for the new school year, we had to work that summer, finding odd jobs here and there. But my dad, he was a vaquero, a cowboy. He grew up on a ranch in Mexico, so he brought those skills over here and worked for a ranching family there in the area around Marfa. And he worked for them for many, many years, but also because it's a growing family. He worked on the side. He did everything else. He worked on, he would fix cars. So he worked his regular job as a cowboy, and then he fixed cars. He would do plumbing for people that needed plumbing work. I mean, he was pretty much a jack of all trades. So very intelligent man, hardworking, very tough though, very tough on us. And then my mom also, she was a cook at a local restaurant for roughly, maybe, I don't know, maybe a little over 20 years. And so, I mean, she worked probably 50 to 60 hours a week. So, she wasn't really at home a lot because she was always working, trying to feed a family as well. So, my parents really weren't the traditional parents of, hey, you got to do good in school, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to do this. But they did want us to do well in school and, do well as individuals in our community and help others. Because that's one thing that they always did, is they always helped others. So that's one thing that I got from them, was not this drive to do well in academics and go to college, but they taught me work ethic. They taught me, if you want something, you go work for it. You make an honest effort to go for what you want, and don't cheat your way through things. And then the other thing they taught me, of course, besides work ethic, was treat people right. No matter who they are, we as poor as we were, they would help people, that were in need. They could, whatever we could give, or however they could help. Actually, they did it. There was just no two ways about it. They were just like, yes, we can help you with whatever we can. So that's one thing that I got from them, actually. But my drive for academics really, I think, was innate, because as a kid, I remember in elementary school, I just wanted to learn. I wanted to read. I remember scrounging around, through the, looking through the cushions of the couch, underneath the car seat, the truck my dad drove and all that, just for change. Because I remember starting in first grade, they would give us these little pamphlets every now and then where you could order books, these little stories that were maybe about 15 cents per book. And I'm like, God, books, I want books. So I would just go over and try and find as much change as I could, and then place an order for books. And then also I just started reading as much as I could. And then, so being the youngest of six, of six siblings, they were, for some reason, can't remember the reason why, but my parents somehow managed to buy a set of encyclopedias, Encyclopedia Britannica, which, back then, pretty pricey, so I don't know how they managed to get that to happen, but that was probably for my older siblings, probably just to copy off some report that they needed for class or something. But so they bought that, but who was the only one that really used those? Me. Because I remember being in class, and then we'd be talking about something interesting in history or social studies or science, and then I'd go home and like, wow, I'm gonna look up some more stuff on that. So I would look up whatever, sparked my interest in class, and then before you know it, so I would finish reading that article, and then it would say, if you're interested in, in a related topic, or, expand more on that topic, look this up. And so before you knew it, I had all these encyclopedias where I was just reading all this extra information outside of it. So I just had this love for learning, for wanting to know more. I just had a ton of questions. As far back as I can remember, I just had a lot of questions. My parents weren't formally educated in Mexico, so of course they didn't, it was very limited as far as what they could answer some of the questions that I had. And so, yeah, it was one of those things that I think it was just in me to this drive to do more, despite our background, being poor. I mean, I still look back and think about, geez, God, how did we do this? Because I remember, you had one set of shoes for the school year. I remember walking around and you'd wear out these, we couldn't afford the best shoes either. It's the tennis shoes that we had. They had a hole in them, by the end of the school year. And, socks, once they had a hole in them, there was no buying socks. You either sewed them, or I remember you put the sock on, leave a little space in front of the toes, and then fold it over underneath your toes, and then slide your foot in the shoe so that you wouldn't have to deal with a hole in your socks the rest of the day. So, so yeah, we managed. It was fine. It was good. It was just the fear of the unknown of like, what am I going to do, right? What do I want to do? I don't want to be a mechanic. I don't want to be a carpenter. I kind of had minimal interest in that. I mean, I still do a little bit on my own, but that's not what I wanted to do career-wise. So I just knew I had this drive to learn more. And so the unfortunate thing was that in junior high and high school, I had terrible science teachers, because I'm a biologist. And so I had terrible science teachers that were just terrible. I mean, I think my high school biology and chemistry teacher just made me hate science. He was such a terrible, not that he didn't know his information, he was just terrible at conveying. He was just grumpy, and I'm like, God, this is horrible. And so, so once my senior year in high school, I'm like, God, what am I going to do? I don't want to be, I don't want to stick around here in Marfa forever. I was working odd jobs all the time throughout high school. So I'm like, God, what do I want to do? So I almost actually enlisted in the Army. I was a decent student, so I was really good at math and the science part of it on my own. But I almost enlisted in the Army because I actually wanted to fly helicopters. So, but didn't manage. I changed my mind for various reasons about enlisting, and instead I went to a nearby university in Alpine, Sul Ross State University. But the reason I went there was because, of course, I knew I wanted to learn, right? But it wasn't something that I was pushed to do by my parents or anything. It's just something I wanted to do. And so fortunately for me, I had an older friend who was already attending Sul Ross. And so I spoke with him, and he goes, all right, he goes, I'll help you. He was pretty much my mentor. He said, he taught me, he showed me, like how to fill out all the, like the what do they call it? Back then it was the financial aid forms. He showed me pretty much how to, look for advisors so that I could get my schedules done. Pretty much showed me all the steps that are required, give me the information so that I could, apply for financial aid, get financial aid, apply at Sul Ross and get accepted, look for my advisor, and he kind of counseled me on what classes to take as well as a freshman. But when I started there, so that was great. I mean, I owe him a lot, and that was my good friend Frank Jimenez from back home, actually. And so thankfully for him, he was there to kind of guide me my first year there at Sul Ross State University, because I think that's a crucial step that a lot of us don't, that a lot of students actually, especially first generation students, I mean, I was the first one in my family to go to college. And so no one could, in my family could say, yeah, you know, go do this or that, or, you know. So fortunately I had my friend Frank Jimenez to get me through that first year. And, but my first year there at Sul Ross, I really didn't know what I wanted to do as far as a major. I was undecided. I had, you know, I was really kind of put off on science by my high school teacher, and so I had history. You know, everybody needs history, and I loved history. I had a really good high school teacher, history teacher in high school who was really good, and so I had an excellent professor there at my freshman year in Sul Ross, and so thinking maybe history, but maybe I'll major in history. But then I'm like, what am I going to do with a history degree? I have no idea. So, but I really, it was fascinating. I'm still fascinated by history, but my second semester of my freshman year, I took a botany class. So back then they had botany and zoology instead of bio, first semester and second semester biology classes. And so I took a botany class, and I remember him clearly. I mean, Dr. Hilsenbeck. Funny, super smart, made the class really interesting, and I was doing really well. I loved the class, but I didn't think of it as, you know, something I wanted to do as a major or as a career. And so, but about midway through that semester, I ran into him on campus, and he's like, hey, he goes, you're in my botany class, right? And I remember this conversation pretty well, actually. And I said, yeah. And then he's like, and you remember my name? He goes, you're Tomas, right? He actually pronounced it right, because most people say Thomas. But he pronounced my name correctly, and then he goes, man, he goes, are you a bio major? I said, no. He goes, you should be. He goes, you're doing so well in class. You're probably one of my top students. And I'm like, God, I don't know anything really about science. I don't know. I mean, I was really kind of clueless about even just the process of science, much less doing research in science. Because he goes, hey, look, he goes, I have a research grant that I'm getting this summer. I'm starting up this summer. I need undergraduate research students. I need, like you. He goes, you'd be great for that. And I'm like, God, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know anything about research or anything in science, just what I'm just learning in your class. It's kind of like a fresh start, really. And he goes, don't worry about it. He goes, look, just come work on the grant with me this summer, take a couple of other biology classes, and then you can decide from there, you know. And then I'm like, all right, well, cool. So I'm glad I said yes. It's one of the few times that I've actually said yes, you know, without too much thought. And so yeah, I took him up on his offer. We were working on this grant for rangeland cyanide concentration in rangeland grasses, and so yeah, he taught me the process of science. Took more biology courses, of course, and as they say, the rest is history, because now, you know, I graduated with a bachelor's and a master's in science, in biology, actually. And I'm here. Been here since, actually. Once I graduated from Sul Ross with my master's, applied and got the job here at Midland College. But yeah, it's interesting looking back of how, you know, how I'm here right now. I have a decent life, I really do. I'm very glad I do, but I look back at my beginnings, and it's just like, wow, it's kind of neat to look back and look at the hardships that, you know, one goes through. I see some of that with talking with some of my students. So I encourage them, I tell them a little bit about myself, saying, look, you know, believe it or not, I came from a dirt poor Mexican family, actually. So, you know, if I can do it, you can do it too. And that's one thing I try and instill in my students, is this this work ethic. I talk about work ethic in my classes, that, sometimes, yeah, things get tough, things are hard, life happens, right? But you can't use that, as a permanent excuse to, like, well, I'm not going to do it, and then just quit, because that's one of the easiest things one can do is quit. It's real easy to just say, I'm done, walk out the door, and you're done with it. It's very hard to continue on with what you're going for, especially, when life hits you hard. And so I'm grateful for my parents to teach me that, even though we had a tough life growing up, that work ethic got us through that. My mom, after working so long, for example, working with at that local restaurant for over 20 years and getting paid pretty much nothing, 50, 60 hours a week, she opened up her own restaurant and became super successful. I mean, she was an excellent cook. She was well known in the area. Her restaurant was well known in the region, actually, and so she was able to actually set up a great retirement account afterwards, from working hard. So I still perplexes me how, I don't know where she got this energy to work double shifts working her restaurant. I mean, she would get up at 5:30 every morning to go up at 6, and then stay open till like 9 o'clock at night, get home at 10. By the time they're done, go to bed, wake up the next morning, and repeat for over 20 years. So I don't get how she did that, but she did it. And same thing with my dad. He worked very hard. So that's what I kind of want from my students. I want them to work hard, and I can help them learn the biological concepts as well. But I think everybody needs to put a little bit of effort into their goal, besides just doing well in biology. So, and hopefully I can somehow pass that on to my students. And that's my story.